Okay, we are starting from page 3, uh, chapter 1. The title of the chapter is Geremio. Geremio is the main character, at least for the first part of the book. He is the foreman of a gang of Italian bricklayers who are working on in a dangerous construction site. And here goes the text, and pay attention as I read and read along to the rhythm that I chose. And of course, I'm going very slowly at first, but then you can pick up, you can accelerate as you read yourself. March whistled the stinging snow against the brick walls and up the gaunt girders. Geremio, the foreman, swung his arms about and gaffed the man on. Old Nick the Lean stood up from over a dust-flying brick pile, tapped the side of his nose, and sent an oyster directly to the ground. Master Geremio, the devil himself, could not break his tail any harder than we hear. Burly Giulio of the walrus mustache, and known as Snout Nose, let fall the chute door of the concrete hopper and sang over in the Lean's direction. Maria Nina's belly and the burning night will make of me once more a milk-mouthed stripling lad. The Lean loaded his wheelbarrow and spat furiously. Son of two-legged dogs, despised of even the devil himself. Work, sure, for America Beautiful will eat you and spit your bones into the earth's hole. Work. And with that his wiry frame pitched the barrow violently over the rough floor. Snout Nose waved his hat to and fro, and with mock pathos wailed, "Sing on, guitar of mine." Short, cheery-faced Thomas, the scaffold man, paused with hatchet in hand, and tenpenny spikes sticking out from small dice-like teeth to tell the Lean as he went by, in a voice that all could hear, "Ah, father of countless chicks, the old age is a carrion." Geremio chuckled and called to him, "Hey, little Thomas, who are you to talk? You and big-titted Cola can't even hatch an egg, whereas the Lean has just to turn the doorknob of his bedroom, and old Philomena becomes a balloon." They're bantering, they are talking, they are on the job. It's really not very important who's saying what. What is generated here is the sense of the place and the atmosphere. Um, Text initially is conceived as a transliteration of Italian. This is not a translation, but more of a transliteration. These people are speaking Italian or a dialect, and in order to render the difference, the different language, the Donato chooses to take these sentences and translate them verbatim, word by word, to give this effect, this sort of strange alienating effect, which is very, very useful and very, very effective. Let's go now to the next page, the second paragraph. We are page 4. It starts with Mike. Mike, the barrel mouth, pretended he was talking to himself and yelled out in his best English. He was always speaking English, while the rest carried on in their native Italian. "I don't know myself, but somebody who's got a bunch of kids, and the all other time stuff from somebody else." Again, here he does a double transliteration. At first, he interprets the words in Italian and renders them in English, and here he gives the onomatopoeic sound of English by a foreigner. Clearly, the dialect, the interference from Italian shows up in this particular sentence. One of the techniques that renders comprehension difficult or more difficult than normal text is the fact that Di Donato mixes together dialogue, description, and internal monologue, meaning the thoughts of the characters. But he doesn't tell you. He doesn't give you markers such as he thought, she said, they said, whatever. You don't have these markers. Everything is given to you in a stream. So we jump from a consideration and observation by the author, description, to a personal thought, to a line of dialogue, or even to an internal dialogue that someone is having with himself or herself. I'm looking again, page 4, at the very bottom, the very last paragraph. The paragraph himself starts with pushing the job. Just above that, if you read it, it's a description of Geremio and his thoughts, his worries about this particular construction job. And without literally any introduction or any warning, Di Donato jumps into Geremio's thoughts, and here they are. Pushing the job is all right. When has it been otherwise in my life? But this job frightens me. I feel the building wants to tell me something, just as one Christian to another. Or perhaps the Easter week is making of me a spirit-seeing pregnant woman. I don't like this. Mr. Murding tells me, push it up. That's all he knows. I keep telling him that the underpinning should be doubled and the old material removed from the floors, but he keeps the inspector drunk and... Hey, Ash's ass, get away from under the pilaster. Don't pull the old work. Push it away from you, or you'll have a nice present for Easter if the wall falls on you. Well, with the help of God, I'll see this job through. It's not my first, nor the, hey, Patsy number 2, put more cement in that concrete. We're putting up a building, not an Easter cake. Patsy hurled his shovel to the floor and gesticulated madly. The padrone Murding sa tell me, too much, little bit is plenty, and you tell me I'm stingy. The rotten building can fall after I leave. 6 floors below, the contractor called, Hey, Geremio, is your gang of Dagos dead? And then comes Geremio's warning to his men. Geremio cautioned the men, on your toes, boys. If he rides out slips, someone won't have big eels on Easter table. We saw very briefly here how we switch back and forth between Geremio's internal thoughts, these worries about the building, the construction, the orders that Morden, the owner of the company, I suppose, gives him, and then he intersperses also with the contractor who tells Geremio, you know, are your Dago gang dead? And then Geremio, in turn, has the obligation to urge the man to work faster. Okay, this is one of the examples of the mixing of various, what is called narrative planes, and I'm going to get into that later. Something else that you may find new, that you've never seen before, is the use of a flow of writing without punctuation. This technique, as far as I know, was brought to its extreme by James Joyce. The very last 40 pages of his novel, Ulysses, what is known as Molly Bloom's monologue. It's a 40-page monologue that the wife of the main character engages in and goes on again for 40 pages without punctuation. There is an internal rhythm, but that was meant to describe the flow of thoughts. When you think, and you think rapidly, you don't put commas, colons, periods, capital letters in your thoughts. It really comes out as a river that flows. And sometimes there are two streams of thoughts that you follow simultaneously. Um, Here is an example of that kind of technique that Di Donato applies to the description of the job. And he tends to reproduce both the complexity, the chaos, the simultaneous actions that take place as if it were a fresco, where you put all of these details together at once. If you visualize a fresco, you see a lot of things. If you were to paint a scaffolding in a construction site, you would have a lot of people working at the same time. Literature does not have that ability. We have a linear succession of events that seem to render better the development across time rather than the snapshot. So this is a way of taking away the dimension of time from the description and try to render it in simultaneously. So we go to page 8. Yes, page 8. Chapter 2. Second paragraph. Trowel rang through brick and slashed mortar rivets, where machine gunned fast with angry grind. Patsy number 1, check. Patsy number 2, check. The lean 3, check. Julio 4 still bellowed back at hammer donkey engine scuffed purple. Ash S's Pietro 15 chisel points in toned stone. Thin still weird and wailed through wood liquid stone flowed, with dull rasp through iron veins and hoist scream through space. Rosario the Fat 24 and Giacomo Sangini check. The multitudinous voices of a civilization rose from the surrounding and melted with the effort of the job. I find this the last sentence superfluous. I think that he had already given this very, he had rendered very well the notion of the multitudinous voices of a civilization. But I think that at this point, he really felt compelled to explain what he was doing. So he put in this sort of subtitle, if you want, or end of page note to tell the reader, don't be scared, this is what I'm doing. I'm rendering the multitudinous voices of a civilization. And that's the way I'm going to do it. So personally, from a purely literary standpoint, I don't think it was necessary, but it is a note from the author to the reader, how to read this book in this particular paragraph, and it will be useful in the future. Let's go on, and let's see now page 9. And we go down about 2/3 of the page. Starts with Murden. Murden is, as I said, the person the owner of the company, I assume, the boss, while Geremio is the foreman. See, actually, it's half way down the page. Murden paused for a moment before descending the ladder. Geremio caught his meaning and jumped in, nervously directing the rush of work. No longer Geremio, but a machine-like entity. The men were transformed into single silent beasts. Snot-nose steamed through ragged mustache, whiplashing sand into mixer. Ashes as dragged under 4x12 beam. Lean clawed wall knots jumping in jaws. Masonry crumbled, dust billowed, thunder choked. At noon, dripping noses were blown, old coats thrown over shoulders, and foot-long sandwiches were tossed at the end of wire over the flames. Shadows were once again personalities. Laughter added warmth. Again, he employs the same technique of the non-punctuation to render this moment of frenzy, which is also veined with anger, and then the break. And then the break when they sit down and shadows become personalities again. people are reverting from machine and tools into themselves to find their humanity. Geremio drank his wine from an old-fashioned magnesia bottle and munched a great pepper sandwich. No meat on Good Friday. And he tells us where we are, when on the calendar, which is clearly symbolic. It's heavily symbolic. Pietro doesn't make any excuses for making this action occur on Good Friday with all the other references. Certainly, it could sound heavy-handed from a point of view of if it were a script, too much symbolism, but that's exactly what he wants to do. He is in control of it. He puts all of the elements together because those are not crucial to the script and to the development. They are there to reinforce the structure, the symbolic epic structure of the book. Let's go now to page 10 at the bottom. It's when the men go back to work after the break, after they banter, they talk about a variety of things. This is a very interesting dialogue. Sometimes we know who's speaking, sometimes it's just a voice, a sentence that comes up. It really renders the choral, the choir, the chorus aspect of this gathering of people. At the very bottom, the penultimate paragraph begins with the ascent. They go back to work. The ascent to labor was made, and as they trod the ladder, heads turned and eyes communed with the mute flames of the brazier whose warmth they were leaving not with willing heart, and in that fleeting moment the breast wanted much to speak of hunger that never reaches the tongue. Again, reflections internal. Let's move now to page 16, which is the climax of the first part. There is an accident, and here is the internal monologue, so-called, of Geremio, who's caught in an horrendous, horrific accident. Page 16, the third paragraph starts with mother mine, which means mamma mia, children of mine, bambini miei, figlio mio, figli miei, mother mine, mother of Gesù, Annunziata, children of mine, dear, dear, for mercy, Gesù, Giuseppe Marie, his blue-foamed tongue called. He then distorted in a shuddering coil, and mad blood vomited forth. Chills and fire played through him, and his tortured tongue stuttered. Mercy, blessed Father, salvation, most kind Father, Savior, Savior of his children, help me, adored Savior. I kiss your feet eternally. You are my Lord. There is but one God. You are my God of infinite mercy. Hail Mary, divine Virgin. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, our Father, my Father, and the agony excruciated with never-ending moan. Our Father, Gesù, Gesù, soon, Gesù, hurry, dear Gesù, Gesù, Gesù. Again, a mixture of thoughts interspersed with some consideration by the author, but the writer, who injects a few lines of description. This is, as I said, the most dramatic moment. I'm not revealing anything by telling you that Geremio is the victim of an accident. Back at home, the people in the neighborhood, the relatives of the people working, hear about an accident that took place, and there is, in the absence of precise news, there is this anxiety. And here is the rendering of, as I said, the chorus-like quality, the voices, the collective voices of the people. It doesn't really matter who says what. Don't waste your energy trying to remember all the names of the characters, who's doing what. It's irrelevant. There are only 2 or 3 major characters that you will be able to focus on. The other ones are extras. They're there to perform a function, clearly, very important function, but they don't need to be identified individually. So page 21, beginning half page down with Angelina. Angelina, courage, courage, sister mine. It may not be anything, nothing. Swishing skirts and pointed shoes tipped up the stairs. Geremio, Master Geremio. Geremio, for the love of God, tell us. Tell me about my Giacomo, my Michael. Why isn't Master Geremio home? My Nick, the hospital, the police. Annunziata, help us. Our world is ending. Our men are away from us. D'Angelo moved about woodenly, attempting to speak, and kept asking, but what has happened? What has happened? May one know? The police on motorcycle. Hospital. Next page, page 22. My man, the father of my children. And then I go back a few lines where the dialogue resumes. Um, Saint Prisca's bell voice sang the seven tolls. More women came, more cries. Paul, away to the house of Thomas and ask of your father. The women munched cakes and cried. Has the scaffold broken? What has happened? No one knows anything. And when will Master Jeremio come to relieve our hearts? Shortly after, Paul burst into the kitchen. Mama, Thomas is dead. Oh, Jesus, oh, Jesus. A block from Thomas' house, I heard screams, and near the building was a crowd of people. Everybody said it was Cola going crazy. I was scared.